Andrea Tessmann.
Yes, Kirk Buchner.
What a steaming pile of crap you picked for this week. That's usually what I do.
Hey, you know what? You got to share the love sometimes.
Yes, and right before we went on, we both said we couldn't remember what the hell it was. I had to look at my recording from last week to remember.
I'm the one who picked the song, and I had to look it up like 3 times. I'm like, what is it? Okay, it's the Canadian band. Yeah, number 1, 5 years after. Oh yeah, Sheriff. Even the name of the band is forgettable.
Everything about Sheriff and this whole thing is so hard to remember, but it's actually easy to see why. So I guess we should sort of look at how we got here. In theory, this should be like, hey, we're both Canadians, Andrea. We should be celebrating this. Look at this. We made it. No.
Not this one.
I was trying to remember, because this song came out in 1982. So I would have been 10. I would have been listening to the radio quite often. I'm sure I heard this when this was a top 10 hit in Canada. I don't remember this at all. Or I don't remember if I heard it. I'm sure I did, but it just was there.
I know I've heard the song before, and when you get to the chorus, the baby, and he just goes on and on. Like, oh yeah, that's the song. I remember that song.
Yeah, but I don't know if I remembered it when it first came out. Was what I was trying to like.
Yeah,
so
I definitely don't remember it when it first came out.
Well, no.
But I've heard it through the years in various things. But it is so generic. It sounds like every other power ballad from the early 80s to mid 80s, like right next to REO Speedway.
Yeah, I read somebody who was sort of like referencing them for that. This was apparently, from what I read, I don't know how true this is, a throwaway to sort of like add to the album. Sheriff only had the one album in 1982, and all the musicians involved. Do we even bother with their names?
No.
Okay.
They're as forgettable as. Oh no, except the one. What was his name? Wolf something. He had a good name.
When you're named Wolf, I think that's already awesome. I used to. My dad had a good friend named Wolfgang, and he was just this crazy German. He was like way older. He was older than my dad, but we were both wrestling fans. So like him, myself, my uncle Mike, and this other guy, I remember just going there, and he would just go nuts. Like, especially whenever the female wrestlers came, it was really then off. It's kind of like, oh Jesus.
All right, so back to Sheriff.
Back to Sheriff.
So the song was apparently written for the guy's girlfriend because he couldn't afford to buy her a Valentine's Day gift. So he wrote her
song?
The cheesiest love song ever.
I thought that only happened in Cheers when Woody wrote a song for Kelly. The song is the gift. But where's my real gift? I can't, don't you get it? I can't afford it.
So apparently that really happened, and they got married 2 years later. So I guess that's a success story.
Did they stay together? I didn't even bother looking up their personal life. I didn't give a shit.
I really didn't care much about the personally. So then, yeah, they were doing the record, and then it's like, oh, do you have anything else? And I'm like, well, we've got this one kind of like lame song, and they played it, and he's like, whatever, and they put it on the album.
Did you listen to the album?
No.
Yeah, I did.
A little bit. I just couldn't. Like the bits I heard, what's the one song that they actually released as a single, or the first single from it that was.
Do I even bother looking this up?
I just listened to like 45 seconds of it, and I'm like, no, I'm done with this.
I think You Remind Me was the other one. I'm looking here. So yeah, this went. You Remind Me was their first single. Went to 28 in Canada. When I'm With You went number 8 in Canada, number 61 in the United States. So it did get minor traction, but obviously not enough for the band to continue. They broke up. 2 of them went into another band. Like, this only means something to Canadians of a certain age, because they would go into another band I remember a little bit more, because Frozen Ghost. So I remember some of their hits. Well, hit.
I think they only had one album. No, they had 2 albums, I think. Yeah. And the first album was actually pretty decent. I mean, for
I just remember the one song that got significant airplay, and it was there. Like it didn't. I liked it better than this one, that's for sure.
so then the other member or two of the other members um got together with some former members of Heart.
Not the Wilson sisters, that's for sure. Yeah.
And created Alias, which they wanted to call Sheriff 2. So instead they called it Alias.
But didn't that happen after this was real? Or
was it after it was re-released? It might have been after it was
I think slightly, because I remember when so we should look at how the song became a hit, like an actual hit.
Oh yeah, that's what this show's about, isn't it?
Yeah. So a lot of the tropes we go to, or one of the main tropes that we go to is here, but it's so strange that this would have happened in 1989. And then I thought about it. I got a theory after we started talking about how it happened. So a DJ in Vegas started playing this in heavy rotation, and it caught on. And then from there, the record company re-released it, and it just became a hit. And then you think about it, in 1989, how the hell does a song become a hit without a video? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a weird one for sure.
But maybe because it sounds like so many, like you said, it sounds like so many of these other power ballads. And then you talk about Sheriff, right? Sheriff, Warrant, Poison, White Lion, Winger. It just adds to all that. So if you're hearing this song, presumably for the first time in 1989, and the guy's doing a bit of his little screech, the lead singer, you think, okay, well, this is a hair metal band, which they really weren't, because that term didn't exist when this came out, because this was 7 years after, which is even more insane. So it fit with a lot of the other shit that was going on there, because Poison's actually not a bad band, but a lot of their hits aren't great. I'd say that for a lot of the hair metal. Some of them were just utter trash.
There were a lot of them. They were a lot of them very similar, but a lot of their lead vocals, a lot of those guys really could sing, which made the power ballad thing work well. I think that's not that it was good music. It was generally cliche and overdone, but
it was better.
When you got a good set of pipes, you can really make that work.
And I think that's also why a lot of those ones did work, like in the late 80s, when you have a lot of those other soft rock songs that feel overproduced, where these ones felt earnest.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of Every Rose Has Its Thorn, but I think there's a certain genuineness about it, as opposed to if it was sung by a non-hair metal guy. Patience, Guns N' Roses, although once I learned that was the wedding song of Paul Bernardo, I could never hear it again. Paul Bernardo and Carla Homolka. For those who are non-Canadians, they're pretty much the biggest serial killers we ever had in Canada. Just disgusting people.
Speaking of wedding songs, though, I think that's another reason that this is in our collective conscience, because it is a staple wedding ballad.
I don't know if I've ever heard this at a wedding.
Because I did ask, because I saw it mentioned as one of those, like, oh, cliche first song. It's our song. Like, we're so in love. And I asked a friend of mine that DJs, and he said, yeah, it's very, very common, or it was at least very, very common for a period as a wedding
I could see it at that time. But then how does it become so forgettable again? And we know why. There's no video. So they couldn't promote it, because half of them were already in Frozen Ghost. We're running with that. And the other thing too, and this is what I found really interesting, and I might deviate a bit, you're gonna have to bring me back. So this the lead singer and another guy, they were working as couriers. Just shows you how much money you really make in the music industry. And I totally believe that. I never tell you, you know the band Anvil? Okay. So when I divorced from my first wife, and if you're listening, fuck you. But anyway, yeah. I moved her, she got an apartment, then I helped her move. And the guy who was the landlord, I'm thinking like, I know this guy. And he's wearing an Anvil t-shirt. And it's the lead singer of Anvil. Things weren't necessarily working out that well. If you ever watch, there's an Anvil documentary of just how pretty much everything just never worked for these guys, despite being pretty influential in that genre. There's the other trope. Yeah, a lot of people might like your music. That doesn't mean you're not going to be a landlord for your sister. Because that's what happened here. So yeah, they formed Alias. They had I think it was a number 2 song, another wussy ass song,
which sounds exactly like When I'm With You.
Yeah,
they couldn't have written a song that sounds more alike.
No.
Without actually just rewriting the same song.
Yeah, that's pretty much what they did. They did have another minor song, Haunted Heart. I remember. I kind of like that one, but this made no sense how they did it. At least when it happened to other bands, like later, I think the Proclaimers, well, they're brothers, they're still together.
Yeah, well, UB40 with Red Red Wine,
right
at the same time, did the same thing, weirdly.
Yeah,
except that's actually a good song. So
I think it's a decent.
Also, song. If you haven't, go back and watch our podcast on UB40.
Absolutely. So yeah, like this is I just still don't get it. I almost feel like people, when they heard it, they thought, they must be confusing them with the Warrants and the White Lions of the world.
I think it is exactly that. It's just this song that's unobtrusive. It doesn't have the screeching guitars and stuff that a lot of the hair band ballads did. And it's just sounds exactly like everything else.
Which is what radio did. I mean, if you look through the 80s, how many songs, in the 70s really, but how many songs in the 80s by great alt bands were complaining about the radio? REM had their song, The Smiths, Hang the DJ. They weren't talking about Moby, they were talking about the actual DJs and the radio.
Yeah.
Although if you want to hang Moby, I'm okay with that too. He seems like a prick.
Has Moby put anything out in a while? I haven't heard anything from him.
He just seems like somebody I don't like. I don't know why. I have nothing to base that on. He just seems like a wanker.
Oh, I don't know. There's other DJs that seem more like wankers than Moby, but that's all right.
That's probably true.
We're probably also really dating ourselves by bringing up Moby as the reference.
Well, I've given up on ever trying to be cool, Andrea. I've never tried. There's no point in me trying now. I got a comment actually from your number 1 fan.
Oh, hi, Brad.
Yes, Brad's responding to a show we did, Sugar Shack. Do you know the comment?
I don't know the comment.
Okay. Well, you mentioned how this was sort of like covered by Gonzo. All right, and we talked about Muppet sex and shit like that. So Brad chimed in. Here's another way I'm dating myself. I have to make the screen really big because I'm old as shit. If Gonzo did shag a chicken, it'd just be interspecies erotica. Not much different than Kermit and Miss Piggy. He's
got a point there. Though Gonzo is an alien, isn't he? Is that just a theory? Was that ever determined? If he's an alien, then it's like intergalactic species.
Well, I guess that's what Brad's trying to tell us. I mean, he made it a little bit more palatable. Well, if that's possible.
Well, it's better than bestiality, I guess.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, I guess, yeah. So let's say like if the band, right, were into chickens, then you'd have a problem. you know, like if Floyd or was it Sergeant? Was he Sergeant Floyd, or I just think he's Sergeant because he's dressed like Sergeant Pepper? Just Floyd, right?
I think it's just Floyd.
Yeah, Floyd. So yeah, Floyd was sort of like looking at Camilla.
Janice,
Jesus. Yeah.
Was it Janice or Janet? Janice.
Janice, yeah. Because
Yeah.
I think like named after Janis Joplin, but looks more like Joni Mitchell.
Yeah. But what about Animal? Because of any of them, Animal is the least like human, considering he's Animal and doesn't actually
that's very true. But I think Animal's not a very tender lover. I don't think he's very giving. And if he tries to give, I think he might get a little too excited, leave bite marks. Why the fuck am I doing this? So right. Anymore on Sheriff.
Moving on from Muppet sex.
Yeah, this is just off the top of my head. I got nothing.
Sheriff, I don't know. I think as a Canadian, I maybe heard this more than I should have. But also it's a terrible song. It is very, very forgettable, and I just hope to forget it again in like 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think that's going to happen for a lot of people. This might not be, well, I think a lot of people will be trying to download when they see this title, like Eric Clapton, I Shot the Sheriff. Maybe, which also went to #1. I don't know that I want to touch that one though.
That one's an interesting one, which I really truly thought was Bob Marley for
most of my youth. It was. He covered Bob Marley.
Yeah, but I thought that the Eric Clapton version also.
Yeah, Clapton. No, speaking of assholes, Eric Clapton's right up there. But
all right. So
that's neither here nor there. So next week I will be away. So our normal recording time on Tuesdays, I will not be able to, but we're going to sort of like take a bit of time and gather maybe some people, maybe someone listening might be want a part of that. Cause we figured, okay, we're going to have our 1 year anniversary.
I can't believe we've been doing this shit for a year.
That might be, that sounds like a great idea for a podcast title. I can't believe I've been doing this shit for a year. That fits with all my other ones.
Everything.
Yeah, this is great. So we're going to tackle, I don't want to call this, I mean, technically it's a one-hit wonder because they never did anything else.
But if you went with the cumulative number of hits, it would be in the triple digits.
It would be, but still, would that be a little less than the Wrecking Crew? Ooh. That could be something to look through. I don't know. So yeah, we're going to take a look at another shit ass song. I think it's shit.
A lot of people agree with you.
A lot of people do agree with it, but you couldn't say that at the time because they were raising money for Africa. And so yes, we're going to look at USA for Africa. We Are the World. And I'm not sure. I guess maybe they should do it again because I don't think any of that money got there. It didn't seem to work out too good for the Ethiopians.
I'm pretty sure the USA is for the USA these days.
Yes. So, which might be the USA for USA might be now, depending on who you voted for. So there'd have to be the Republican side and the Democratic side. I think one would have a lot more cowboy hats than the other. Ooh, that'd be fun trying to figure that out. But yeah, so in a couple of weeks, we are going to have USA for Africa. And then look at that, another 80s thing of, hey, we want to help everybody. And maybe Andrea and I, we can reminisce about Northern Lights. Did you see the Canadian version? Mm-hmm. Oh, Jesus. That was an awful, awful version. Man, that's going to be a long ass show. So that's what we've got. Now I'm going to close off with some blatant self-promotion. I just recorded another show for This Crap Was on National Television. Want to know what we looked at, Andrea?
I do.
Joni Loves Chachi.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we just did that. We've concluded that Joni might love Chachi, but Chachi really didn't give a flying fuck about Joni. I think I stole that from a note from Roxbury. I think that was already stolen. But yeah, Nevertheless, we look at Scott Baio and the massive fandom that they had. Vinny makes the Hall of Fame case for. That's a sports thing where we do a throwback, and he's this great kid. He just sort of really takes a deep dive into people who he thinks should be in respective halls of fame. Evan Nolan and I, we always do our weekly Hall of Fame show where we look at Hall of Fame related news, and I stand on my shit box. I don't have a soapbox, I have a shit box, and usually I just ramble about some dumb shit. Sometimes I tell Andrea what it's going to be, and then she tells me, don't say it.
You are like a seagull, my friend.
I'm like
you
a
squawk
seagull.
a lot and shit all over everything.
Wow. Damn. Okay.
Not a bad thing.
No, I think that's very appropriate. I've got no comeback. I've got absolutely nothing. I might even use that tomorrow. And what else? Other shows do I do? I do a lot of shows. I lose track.
Yeah, how much of this crap do you put out?
Yeah, that's another great title for show. How much of this crap do I put out? I have 5 regular shows now. So I'm part of a network, and unfortunately, I'm the host of all of them. So if you think this guy's an asshole, then this isn't going to do particularly well for me.
This is not the place.
No.
I think Kirk's an asshole, or maybe it is, and just write us more hate mail.
That's true. I kind of enjoyed my hate mail. That was kind of neat. Yeah.
Yeah. You feel like you're actually like doing something in the world if someone has enough effort, puts in enough effort to send you hate mail.
I did enjoy that. I think
and what was it? Crawl back into the crevice.
Crevice in which I came from. Yes.
All right. I'm quite happy in my crevice. Thank you.
Yes.
I would prefer other people to stay out of it, to be honest. Just like leave me in my crevice. I'll do my thing.
That's an album. Leave me in my crevice. Yeah?
Well, on that
note, we hope everyone's staying safe in their particular crevice. And you don't have to go back to where you came from, but you can't stay here. Well, you could. I don't know where you are.
That's a terrible song. Please don't ever pick that.
Which song is that?
Closing Time? Did that not go to number 1?
I don't know.
No, it's terrible.
Yeah. No, all right, let's just end this. Bye, everybody. Stay safe.
Bye.